Hello once again, dear viewers. You're watching ERi-TV. Welcome to this special edition of Open Mic. My guest for this evening is going to be Professor Massimo Zachariah. He is an Italian professor from the University of Pavia, Italy, Department of Political and Social Sciences. Welcome to our program, Professor. Dear viewers, we are actually at the Research and Documentation Center, and we will be talking about the Eritrean publications that is being digitalized and the progress it has reached so far. Professor, just a brief introduction about yourself to begin with.
Okay, my name is Massimo Zachariah. I'm Italian, and I'm associate professor in African history at the University of Pavia. I work at the Department of Political Science. And since, I don't know, the 1980s, I started working on the Horn of Africa. I studied Arabic at the University of Khartoum for a year, and then I started working on the history of Sudan, and step by step I moved toward Eritrea, a little bit of Ethiopia, also history of Ethiopia. And now my research focuses mainly on the history, social history of the Horn of Africa.
I'm actually interested in how you got to be interested in Eritrea and how the work began.
Well, I started working on Eritrea 2004 when I first visited Eritrea. Out of curiosity, my dream was to study the connection between the history of Eritrea and Sudan, because in that period I was still very attached to Sudan. That is a country that I like very much. Then I started working on the history of Eritrea, and I found it very interesting, fascinating topic. And I started working here, visiting every year Eritrea, working with RDC together, yes. Writing on Eritrea, and so till now I'm working on Eritrea, mainly on Eritrea, but all the region. I'm interested in all the region because most of the phenomena that took place in this country were somehow connected with the other countries, and so at the end you cannot study the history of Eritrea alone. Now you have to connect with the rest of the region.
So the RDC has been engaged in digitalizing Eritrean publications. I want you to tell me more about it, like which was the first book to begin with, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, the Eritrean publication. I mean, now is almost 4 years that we are working with RDC basically we are creating the National Digital Library of Eritrea. What I mean is we are collecting all the books, printed documents that were published here in Eritrea from the first publication up to 1962. And we are taking digital copies, And what we are doing is really mapping this production that is unknown, and also integrating the gap, meaning that a lot of books does not exist anymore in Eritrea. So what I'm particularly doing is visiting European libraries and making copies of texts that were printed here and bring back the copies so that at the end we will have the full picture of this printed production, national printed production of Eritrea. And so the period that we are covering, as I said, is 1867, when the first book was printed in Massawa, up to 1962. And at the moment, we have digitized more than 200,000 pages in all languages. So whatever language, the important thing is must be printed here in Eritrea.
how many items have been digitalized so far?
Yeah, magazine, whatever. I mean, is also calendar, no? That we are very interested in. Must be, I mean, the rule is printed, has to be printed documents, no? And so whatever has been printed means booklets, book, magazine, periodicals, whatever kind of periodical, and that is, yeah, the target of our operation. No? What we aim is to digitize, first of all, to map, and then digitize this production. Mapping is not so easy. You have to work a lot in order to understand what has been published here. You have to work with catalogs, library catalogs. You have to go to libraries on the shelves, controlling, confronting, I mean, checking, cross-checking. But at the end, we succeeded. I mean, now we are in the position to say more or less with a high level of accuracy what has been printed in Eritrea. Plus, also, we have recovered this material, no? Because one of the difficulties in this project is the fact that some of these material are extremely rare. The first book printed here in Eritrea, that is a religious book printed in Massawa, to my knowledge, there are only 2 copies, surviving copies of that books. And that 2 surviving copies are in Italy, in Milano and in Rome. No? So what we did is to make digital copy. We did a digital copy of that books, and we brought back that digital copy here in Eritrea. And here in Eritrea we are putting together all these books. And this is not a rare case. I mean, most of the books originally were printed in very short, I mean, in very small run, 250 copies, maximum 500 copies, no? And today, in a lot of cases, only 1 copy has survived, no? So it's very similar to a manuscript at the end, no? Yeah, most of, I mean, a lot of these books have survived only in 1 or 2 copies, no? So very rare material.
Okay, Professor, the million-dollar question here is, what makes this work so unique?
Okay, yeah, you know, there are a lot of countries, African countries, that are digitizing their libraries, etc., etc. In general, these experiences, I'm referring, for example, to some experience I've seen in Kenya. They go to a library, very rich library, and they start digitizing the material that is inside that libraries. No? Here we are doing something that is a little bit different and probably more complex, meaning that we are not digitizing, we are not going to one place. We are moving in dozens of libraries looking for material that was printed here in Eritrea. No? In Kenya, for example, they have digitized this library, but most of the material in that library was created and printed abroad, not in Kenya. No? And so at the end, for a lot of African countries, majority of the African countries, there is no idea of the local printed heritage. So at the end, Eritrea probably is the first or one of the first African countries that, at the end of this experience, can claim to have a very good knowledge about what has been printed locally, no? And has retrieved and, let's say, saved this kind of material through digitalization, yeah, of this material, bringing also what we call virtual repatriation, meaning going abroad, making copies of this material and bringing this material back to Eritrea. And this is something that we have done frequently because, as I said, a lot of this material is not anymore in Eritrea. And so What we do is to go to the National Library of Rome to look for material printed in Eritrea, to make copies and bring that copies here to RDC. And possibly, soon, we will publish everything on the internet. That is our final, the final target is the publication on internet, so that we can share with other material, with scholars, with people that likes the history of Eritrea, etc. All this material.
But Professor, one question here also is, how can you be so sure that you have digitalized all publications? I mean, are you sure?
Of course, you are never sure, but is almost 10 years that we are, personally I'm involved in this work. I have visited dozens of libraries, checked a lot of catalogs, worked also on internet trying to find material printed here. And so, yes, I'm almost sure that, let's say 90%, no? There is always something that you are not able to track, no? But I think that the majority of the publication printed here in Eritrea, we have tracked them. You know? So for the moment, I think that the accuracy of our work is high. Yeah.
I'm just curious, Professor, what manner of work was put into it? I mean, how the RDC has managed to collect all these publications and for digitalization works, of course.
Of course, it's not easy, it's time-consuming. That probably is one of the reasons why other African countries did not attempt to do something similar. It's quite complicated now, because you have to work on many sites. You have to be very determined in finding information, and so it's time-consuming. You have to negotiate with the library in order to get the digital copy of it, and so it requires a lot of attention. We succeeded because we had the support from RDC. I mean, the secret of the success of this research project is probably in the right combination between the partnership between RDC and the University of Pavia. So RDC has covered here Eritrea, the work done here in Eritrea. The University of Pavia has recovered the material that is abroad, in Italy mainly, but not only, because also we work in Sweden because of the Evangelical Church. We went to Uppsala, Karin Library in Uppsala, and we make copy. We went many places, cross-checked, constantly cross-checking all the data, and nowadays we can claim that we have a fair picture of this Eritrean printed production.
Okay, Professor Massimo, how have you managed to classify them?
Classified, we have mostly followed the chronological order. No? So at the end, what we are planning to do is to present a catalog where we will follow the main order. It will be chronological order, and then we have, of course, used a simplified cataloging system for ordering this material. Most of this material is religious, no? Religious, Catholic and Evangelical Church played a key role in the history of printing in Eritrea, at least the first phase. They were the dominant forces in the history of printing in Eritrea. So you find a lot of religious material, because of course people was very interested in religion also. Then you find a lot of administrative material, like Bollettino Ufficiale della Colonia Eritrea, that is a periodical that basically you find all the law passed by the Italian government. A lot of very interesting information at the economic level also. And you have the periodicals. Now, the periodicals probably are the most fascinating part of this project, because you find a lot of information about daily life in Eritrea, and we are working in order to rebuild also this entire collection of periodicals.
Who will benefit from the work that has been done so far? And with that, who are you attempting to target with the work that you've done so far?
Yes, the target, of course, is Eritrea and Italy, because they have this shared history. They have a shared history, but not only. I mean, the idea is also to provide an example to other African countries, to inspire them, to encourage them to do the same, because there are only very few countries, probably Egypt, South Africa, that they can claim to have done something similar, but for the rest, the other 52 African countries are still at the beginning, no? And this material has been for a very, very long period not considered interesting from the historical point of view. But when you recreate the periodical series, when you map completely the book production of a country, you share all this material, no, in digital form, you are going to put a lot of new informations, no, that have the potential to change the understanding of many aspects of the history of a country. No? So the final aim is also to encourage other African countries to do the same.
The RDC, the Research and Documentation Center, your university, yourself, and the team that of the RDC, you have come this far. What next?
What next? Well, the idea, as I said, is to inspire other countries to do the same. And then, now we have collected and we have all this new data. Now the next step would be to analyze this new information and to try to understand, to get more information for understanding better the history of Eritrea in this case, or other African countries. Yes, to pass then to the analysis and to share this material with other scholars and have a better understanding of the history of, in this case, Eritrea. And it is our next target is to share this material with internet.
So, Professor, I'm just curious. Do you feel you have contributed in saving part of Eritrea's history?
Yeah, in part, yes. I mean, part of the history of Eritrea, but also part of the history of Italy, no? Because there is a lot of material that is in Italian, and for a certain period, Italy played a role, or was the colonial power here, and so also for the history of Italy, this is material that is extremely important, no? And so that's not only Eritrea, definitely. Also for the entire region, because you can get information that can be used to better understand the history of the entire region. Now, because Eritrea, especially in this phase, was very connected with the neighboring countries. No? And so in this document, you find clear traces of these connections.
Okay, Professor, we are nearing to the end of our interview, but before that, is there anybody that you feel should be mentioned here in this interview who are deserving of their contribution?
All the people, of course, RDC, no, because he's our partner, and a lot of people from RDC worked in this project. The director, of course, Azeb Tewolde, and then Nathaniel Aaron, that is supervising the part of this project. The many people that we have worked together, coming from RDC, are then we have the University of Pavia, because also in the University of Pavia there is people working at this project, students, but also PhD students are working on this project. And finally, of course, also to the EU delegation of Asmara, because it is thanks to a grant from the EU delegation that we were able to implement this project and to accomplish these results.
Okay, any final messages before we close, Professor?
Yes, the message that is to care a lot about your printed heritage, at the national level. I mean, printed documents are very important. Documents are very important. So to preserve this documentation is extremely important. Eritrea is an example in this. I mean, Eritrean authorities have paid a lot of attention toward the preservation of historical documents. So this is great, no? And probably this project is the result of this sensibility from the Eritrean side and also from the European side, in order to work together and yes, and to accomplish results at many levels.
Professor, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Dear viewers, that was Professor Massimo Zachariah from the University of Pavia, who has been contributing and working in the digitalization of Eritrean publications here at the RDC, the Research and Documentation Center. We thank him for his time, and that wraps up this week's Open Mic. It is good night from me.